So it won't record, huh?
We're recording now.
Enjoy my crew. You take the card and put it in the sleeve.
And scene. Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Card Dad, the Pick 6 podcast. We are back again. Actually, this is going to should roll out a day early. This is going to be a Friday episode coming out. We actually have just been battling with Google shutting down. StreamYard has not been working for the last couple of hours, or some sort of a weird outage. Maybe it's UFOs, maybe it's AI. Every time I see something like that, I'm like, the machine's got it. They got a hold of the damn thing, and now they're running the show over there.
Yeah.
So it was some Google outage, because that's what StreamYard said. So that makes me a little bit nervous. But here we are. DPZ, how you doing, man?
I'm good, my friend. I'm really good.
I feel like it's hard for us to follow up last week's episode of We Don't Know What We're Doing. It's tough to follow that up.
Yeah, no, I wanted to look at some of the comments from.
Oh, yeah.
This episode is going to be a reactionary episode to the episode we had before with some other stuff layered in. And I'm going to start walking through these comments because some of them are pretty funny. Some of them are interesting and I want to respond to them. First one's like, I feel like I'm watching an AA meeting. Okay. Makes sense. Trap Hunt says you have to slowly keep putting money back into the hobby. I think it's impossible to keep churning the same money over and over because it gets dwindled away with small losses and fees. You don't win on every resale. No, you don't, Trap Hunt. And I totally agree. I also feel like,
but also did you throw out? I didn't feel like I got the sense that you were saying that you expected to, though.
No, I never got. No. That's the point I was trying to make. A lot of times when people are selling these cards, they say they found a card they want more. And so now they have to sell the card to go buy the card because you don't have money sitting around to go buy that said card. So you have to sell a card to go buy a card. So yeah, sometimes you eat a loss.
And part of that decision is knowing that you're going to eat some money there. I mean, maybe you get lucky. Like you had that instance where you actually came out ahead. You were shocked. What was the one card that sold for $9,000 or something? So that happens, but that's like 1 out of 100. Usually it either sells around comps or maybe it's a little bit lower or whatever.
Like, I need some cash right now and I'm not going to put it back into the hobby. So I'm selling my Trout update gold PSA 10, the 87 Jordan PSA 10. I didn't want to sell either of them, but I have to. I need to because I'm not going to, I'd rather use that cash than use something else to take care of a situation. We got to
I've got another. So speaking of your 87 Fleer PSA 10, I was just looking at the PSA store, the eBay store, PSA eBay store. And I'm actually going to talk about on Saturday's video, looking at the PSA eBay store. There's a 9 that's currently sitting at like $1,600 with like 3 or 4 days left or something. And like, that's what the last 9 sold for, was like $1,500 or $1,600. So that one is most likely going to sell for higher than kind of that last one. Your 10 will probably do really well if you have to sell it.
Yeah, I feel like I should be, and I actually feel like I'll make a little bit on that one. And it's like I said in the last episode, I don't think I'll ever get it back, and that's fine. I mean, I had to pick and choose between that and some other cards that it's not that I can't get it back. I just have to pay to get it back, and I don't really feel like paying that much to get it back because I'd have to sell other cards to pay that much to get it back. And it came down to picking between that and a lot of other cards I know I'd never get back. That'll just be way more money or never sell or very rare. So obviously that one's 200 pop. You're going to see a lot of them. They sell like a couple times a month. So every month. So that one kind of has to go, but I didn't want to. But yeah, you get to those tough points where you got to sell. And sometimes you make money, sometimes you don't. But, you hope to make money. But especially with the rarer cards, you just never know. You just never know what what people are thinking and all that stuff. So
I feel like after last week's title, it worked so well. I think we had like 3,500 views on last week's video.
Yes.
I think it should be like, like last week was like, we don't know what we're doing. Maybe it should be something like we're stupid, but so are you. Or maybe what I would do is like PSA 10 ? You're stupid, but so are we. Or something like that, where just a total mind bender where people are like, what? I'm not stupid. I need to hear why I'm stupid. I think it'll work. I think it'll work because everybody's tired of you talking about Jeff Wilson apparently. So you're not talking about him at least. I mean, you're veering in different directions. So I'm all that works. I don't think anyone's tried more different types of content or different subjects than me. I've hit
I know.
I've hit everything on planet Earth.
I love the comments, man. The comment sections are they're fun to dig
All right,
into.
so you brought up Trap Hunt's comment just a second ago. I'm pretty sure Trap Hunt, if I remember correctly, was the same guy that said something like, "Do your research in advance on the other video, because who wants to watch 30 minutes of you guys looking up cards?" And yet he did watch for 30 minutes of us looking.
Well, he watched us, and now he's going to watch us again, reading his comment, and now he's going to watch us reading comments from the video.
It's like a total mind bender.
Go.
I love this, man. All right, keep going.
Here we go. So here we're going to keep going with these comments because this, I feel like with some of these really great episodes where there's a big topic that's a pretty broad topic. There's a lot of different takes that can be had. The comment section is usually pretty an informative place. This is one of the better comment sections I've had with our show. So
they came at some of them came at you pretty hard.
Some of them, yeah. No, I was okay.
And some agreed.
So there's some long ones here. So go, man, every Mike L. Tolp, man, every average collector feels like this. I agree. Dave Snyder 8753 says, I previously did not like your content. Thought it was a bit too much fluff and very in line with the major influencers. But about 2 months ago, I've seen a slow change against the hobby gatekeepers. New fan alert. Please create your own lane. Don't settle for theirs. I actually thought this was cool. This is that's a complimentary comment for not only this show but for you, apparently, Dustin. So it looks like you're growing. That's pretty good.
I feel like we're a different style show for sure.
Like, we're just kind of doing our own thing and just talking about stuff because so folks, when you're listening to these shows, this is kind of like what our conversations are like with just us and I talking. So you're basically,
I feel like you're really self-aware to where, and I can be too, where it's like, man, I screwed this up, or where you're like, we can actually say maybe that wasn't the best idea or whatever. Like you and I don't have any issues at all saying that.
No, and there's one down here. I'll get to it. Vintage Sanctuary says, and it speaks to exactly what you just said. I love hearing DPZ's open reflections on his current collecting challenges. Wishing him the best as he sorts them out. Great show, my collecting brothers. Love that. Thank you, brother. That was a nice one. And then we got this. Bring in the heat, VBC. How about selling before you buy? Lots of question marks, which insinuates that he's very, very like, why? What's wrong with you, man? You may have a problem and may want to check into it. Yes, of course I have a problem. I buy too many sports cards. I think most of us that are watching these shows probably have a problem because we're watching content about collecting sports cards.
And a lot of folks just they're not honest with themselves about some of this stuff too.
Well, no, hey, I'll give them credit. I'll be honest. Keep the 20 you like and stop buying the rest. Agreed. I will try to do that. Bring in the heat. That's usually the goal. It's hard, but it's usually the goal. Tony Conte 9345. DPZ is right on the mark with my situation. I bought something on Friday, and it was my first purchase in 9 weeks. That's long for me, but that's how it's got to be. Yes, it's really hard, though, isn't it? I haven't bought a card in a while. I don't know how many weeks it's been, but it's been a while. I haven't had a mail day in a long time. I was thinking about that.
Oh, good for you. It's actually
it gets so long that you just start buying like card cases and switching them out and New Zion and the single card case, and you just start buying stuff to kind of put your cards in differently. It's kind of ridiculous. I have a bunch of those, but they're not that expensive, like $10 a pop, whatever. That's a very different thing.
That's good though. That means you're not fire selling anything that you really don't want to sell to get into something else. Because I just want
to put it in a cooler box, a cooler case.
You got a lot of stuff that you don't like. It would sting to move it.
Yes, I got a lot of stuff. I probably should put in a safe deposit box. So.
But wait, no. So the PSA, the 87 Fleer PSA 10 Jordan, that's not necessarily going to hobby stuff. That's just taking care of like family stuff.
Yeah, those are really nice cards, but I think I can get them back. Got some stuff we need to do, and so no big deal. But yeah, they're cards that you can get back. So that is when it's getting to a point where it's getting real low. I'm getting to a point where it's going to be hard to move on so many cards. Anyway, back to comments. Let's see. Dave Parker 5541. I feel the same way. I feel the same way, but I only buy when I can afford it. Dave, that's awesome. Good for you. You are very few in number, I believe. I don't know many people that just go, well, I can only afford this and I buy this. They should do that.
And there's so many different ways. I guess there's a lot of different ways to spend money in the hobby. That's the thing that's kind of tricky. You have a lot of people that if they're like you and me, Dennis, then they're like singles buyers that are looking and there's so many cool singles. And then like there's one that pops up that you didn't think you were ever going to see and you're trying to figure out how to buy it. We've talked in the past about, breaks and the repacks and the gambling products where that's just kind of an impulse to get in and try to get the big hit. That's another section of the hobby where there's a lot of people impulsively buying cards. And so just saying like, oh, well, you know, when you have the money to do it, but there's always kind of that look. I mean, look at how kind of a lot of the industry markets where it's like, get in on this big hit, new product coming out, black finite one of ones. Are you going to chase them? Are you going to chase the superfractors? Like every Topps product now, hell, even V-Friends cards have a damn one of one superfractor to chase in it, let alone like the newest baseball card product. Like everything has a one of one superfractor to chase, whether you're buying into a break or opening a box or trying to bid on it on an auction as it pops up.
Right.
It doesn't matter how you're trying to do it.
No, it doesn't. Roll Tide, man. I'm only buying oddball cards lately. They're $1 to $2 cards. I used to buy packs, but they're not worth the money. I'm definitely not getting into expensive cards. Brother, stay in that lane, man. You'll be happy. I'm glad you're there. Everybody collects differently, and there's nothing wrong with that. Michael Golden 4938 says, I'm starting to think of Dennis as the walking, unfiltered, subconscious mind of the hobby. Thanks, Michael. I never thought of people.
By the way, that guy's the best. I've met him before. It's probably it's the top 5 viewer on the channel. Top 5 viewer, Mike Golden. I've hung out with him at the National. Great guy. I'm going to see him at this year's National.
Very cool. Well, thanks, Michael. That's a really cool. That's definitely a compliment. I try to just be unfiltered and just say stuff. And I normally, I think, put my foot in my mouth and contradict myself pretty much every day. And I don't try to act like I'm, important at all. And because I'm not at all. I just think this is fun. I think it's fun to talk about these things. I like to just kind of, all right, this is what I'm thinking. Or I'm going for a walk and I'm like, why did I buy that card? I'm getting better now. I look at it and go, oh, because even today I was like, oh man, I should go back and get an 89 Flair sticker PSA 10 because I'm getting rid of my 87 and I'm not gonna have any MJ and I'm gonna be sad. I'm like, no, Zender, you're not buying another card once again. Why? You're selling stuff because why would you take it? Defeats the purpose. If you're gonna do that, then why do you even sell the cards in the first place? Stop. Put the phone down. Don't buy anything. I was proud of myself. I was able to do that. So yes, I think you just, I feel like either you hide behind the fact that, oh, everything's great, I got all this money, I can do whatever I want. You can never say outside of like maybe 1 or 2% of the hobby that, oh yeah, I have an extra 50K lying around I could spend on a piece of cardboard that someone says it's worth this much because of that and because of this grade that this one person thought it was on a Tuesday. Now, come on, man. Nobody's doing that. You have to. It's probably not the best, But then here's the cool thing, though. Here's the cool thing. But the fun part about all this is that I can take those cards I bought that I probably should have bought, and I can now sell them and get maybe more money back because I bought the right cards, right? I used capital from another card to get into that card, and now that card appreciated in value. And I've always told everybody, I've tracked every dime I've spent since 2019. Spent, sold, everything. And I'm up. I'm still up. All the raw, and there was a comment earlier, you got to think about all the fees. I'm actually still up. I have a spreadsheet. So I'm not that ridiculous. I'm not that like, oh, whatever. But it is kind of neat. You do take losses here and there, but it's like netting out in the end. Getting into, I've been lucky to get in some pretty cool cards that have appreciated in value, that is carrying and sort of like buoying my collection. And then there's some other cards that, hey, there's a time to sell it. Let's sell it now. I can do it. But this will be the first time in sending the cards that I have right now. I have 3 cards I'm selling right now that I'm going to keep the money. I'm not going to put it back into the hobby. So pretty much all the cards I've sold up to this point, I've put it right back into the hobby. So I feel like I've been a good steward of the hobby when it comes to that. Not that I need to do that or explain that to anybody.
Yeah, your prerogative. Now, have you had less contact with certain like hobby friends that like you'll typically talk to when you're making a big buy or almost kind of like talk you into it? Have you had like less conversations with those purposely? Like, all right.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, that's a great question, Dustin. And I'd ask you the same thing. I don't do that anymore. I think I've gotten to a point now where if I really want something, I kind of know where they're at. And I'm not going to bother that person unless I'm really serious about making a move, and I got to know what I'm going to sell to make it, right? There's got to be now that I have less cards, back to that comment that Bringing the Heat said, you got 20, stop buying. It gets to the point where you're like, if you want to buy a card, you're going to have to sell a card. How bad do you want it? Because you're going to have to sell it. And do you want it more than the card you currently have that you have to sell to pay for it? Those are the questions I'm now having, or the conversations I'm having with myself, which I have a lot of.
It actually feels kind of good. Tell me if this is what's happened to you. I've done this over the last, I would say like 45, 60 days where there's been instances where I could have kind of leveraged myself a little bit, temporarily leveraged myself, not leverage myself like I didn't pay the mortgage, but leverage myself card wise, where I would have to, okay, like I need to sell off some things to kind of make up for this card. And I just decided not to do it. And I ended up feeling better. I felt good about it. I felt good later on that, like, you know what? I didn't get like, yeah, I really wanted that card, but it wasn't an impossible card. It wasn't like a one of one that I'll never see again. It was like the stuff, it was like something that I want to own, but I held off on getting it and actually felt pretty good, you know, about just holding off, and not like super high end, but not super low end either. It was in like the $2,000 to $4,000 range. So that's all relative in the hobby. In the hobby, that $2,000 to $4,000 barely gets you a hobby box for certain products. You know, I mean, so I mean that money doesn't go very far in our hobby, especially on kind of like the mid to high end. But it is high end though compared to what a lot of the hobby's doing, just in dollar boxes and that sort of a thing. And so I felt good that I held off, and then, you know, just decided to you know, look at it, like make sure that I'm making the right choice. You know, not impulsively, you know, getting into something. I wouldn't call it impulse, because these are items that I've been looking at for a while. It's not something that just like popped up on my radar and I was like, ooh, I need to have that. It's something that I've wanted, but then kind of to your point, there's a variety of things that I've been wanting. So if I go and get that one, then it's all opportunity cost. Then I can't go get the other things. I've got the National coming up, which I'm thinking about. I don't want to have like $5 at the National. I don't need to have 50 grand or whatever. I don't need to be like, you know, suitcase of cash like some of these dudes, but I would like to have a few bucks there, you know, to be able, like, hey, if I see something really cool, then I can make a move. I can make content around it or whatever. But, so I was thinking about that, and that's been, but I felt good about it. I was like, okay, like I showed some restraint, and like, I'm in a good spot. I don't need to rush out and buy anything in particular.
Not only that, but you don't have to sell something to buy whatever you want to buy. And so there's sort of a reverse psychology that goes into that, where if you have a card that you were going to have to sell to go buy the card that you were going to buy, and you decide not to move forward with it because you just don't want to lose that card, you don't want to sell it because you're worried about getting it back. Now you almost get to reacquire the same card you already own. You get to almost own it again. You get to almost, it's like, is it almost left? You know, I'll sometimes I'll literally pack a card up to ship off to Fanatics, and then I'll change my mind 10 minutes later and unpack it. And I'll pull it out, and it's almost like I just got it. I almost made another mail day for myself. I created my own mail day.
You almost lost it. Yeah, you
almost let it go. Sometimes I get to the post office and I'm like, nope. And I keep driving, carry on with my day, go to work. And if it's still there and I still want to sell it the next day, or what'll happen is I'll go, all right, let me listen to some shows that talk about this particular card and see how I really feel about it. And then I'm reminded of what I liked it in the first place. And then I'm like, no, I can't get rid of this card. Or I watch all that stuff. I drive around and I'm like, you know, I'm still not, I can let this one go. And then it's like, okay, I'm done. Right.
This is like a whole nother dimension to catch and release. It's okay. So like you get it in the boat and
put
then
it in water,
and then you put it, then you like, you know what, I'm going to release, but then you're like, wait. And then it kind of fights around a little bit and you have to get it back into the boat. And so then you decide, you know what, I'm going to keep this one. I'm not going to catch a release. And
then you see another boat drive by with a guy eating a fish sandwich. You're like, I want a fish sandwich. And you keep it.
Exactly.
See?
Perfect analogy.
Perfect analogy. All right, let's look here. I'll try to find there's a lot of them here. I'll try to find a good one. I think I already talked about it. News Fisig. And this was edited. I wonder what the first take was. Well, he edited out the S, so he said that. That's kind of interesting. He actually let us know what he actually edited out. Stop buying cards. Sure, that'll help the hobby. Maybe we can get everyone to stop buying cards and watch the industry boom. So I can. He sounds like he's like, hey, don't do that. Let's keep going, man. I never vault. Okay. I don't think we talked about vaulting, but that's good that you said that. I've been buying vintage hockey, not the new garbage. I'm happy. You know, I think there's a lot of people moving. Other than breakers, and young kids, I don't see who's getting into modern. More humble bragging and pumping random 90 sets no one wants. That's MSKEDU 47.
Oh, yeah, he's always a bundle of joy. Every comment. He's always
High Pop Professor responded. He says, some of us like 90s cards, though. And then I said, yeah, no bragging here. I'm open about how dumb I am, which I am. And then I said, tell me how cool you are. That's when I got a little mad. So you get
yeah.
DPZ got mad.
Some of these folks.
So it is, and it's fun. Actually, I think it's literally creating an episode for us. So I love the comments. Hope we get more after this. Comments on all the stuff we're talking about, folks, on this episode, so we can read some more of the comments on the next episode. We're not going to make the whole episode about it, don't worry, but we'll throw some in there because some of these are really good. Rusty's Hobbies 8430 says, in 40 plus years, I only regret selling 2 cards. I really want to know what those 2 cards are. So Rusty's Hobbies 8430, you have to comment on this video and tell us what those 2 cards are. Then we'll read those 2 cards in the next episode.
Him saying I only regret selling 2 cards.
2 cards. I need to know what those are. I
took that the wrong way. I thought that he had only sold 2 cards in 40 years, but no, he's been selling cards, but there's only 2 that he's regretted selling in 40 years. Got it. Okay. So yeah, we have to know what those 2 cards were. We have to know.
Okay. So
that's actually a good point too, BBC. Is this something that's just is this like a psychological thing that's just in our head to where, it's like, oh my God, if I sell this, I'm never going to I'll never get it back. I'm going to be so depressed. But then when you sell it, you realize later that, you know what? It wasn't so bad. I'm over it. How many cards are like that?
You kind of have to look at you. I almost feel like you got to do an assessment. My buddy Cage always used to say, do an audit on your collection. What ones can you live without? You start going, all right, can't lose that. Can't do 3 or 4 rounds of it. You're going to slowly start weeding out the cards that there's no way I'm selling these. And that's going to be a pretty big pile. And then you go down and it whittles down pretty fast.
Maybe it speaks to the folks that are collecting the one-of-ones or the high-grade vintage or, all of that stuff. Or maybe just very difficult to find vintage sets that are just out there that you never see because it actually is irreplaceable. If it's a Hank Aaron rookie card, it's a 3, yeah, maybe you've always wanted that card, but damn, man, go to the National. You'll see 1,000 of them, so I wonder if that's what ends up prompting people to go that route. Now, one-of-ones are not all created equal. Now, you have a new set that comes out. There's there's 50 one-of-ones in Mosaic. There's 50 one-of-ones in this product, that product, and whatever. But there's certain, I know we'll use Chris Hoge as an example because he collects one-of-ones, mostly one-of-ones for modern. I know he's got 90s insert stuff and that sort of a thing, but, he's collecting McCaffrey one-of-ones and that sort of thing. And I actually asked him, well, what if you just aren't seeing the one-of-one? Are you buying the tie-dye out of 25? Are you buying the gold out of 10? I think he'll buy gold out of 10, obviously. But basically the answer to that was, nope, I'm just going to wait. I'll wait for the one-of-one. No, it wasn't like I'm going to get tie-dye out of 25 because, I see it pops up. It's a good price, and I'm going to add that in. Nope.
Yeah, collecting one-of-ones is fun too, but it's also kind of lonely because you're the only person who has that card. So you don't really get to enjoy the community aspect of collecting a certain set, a card, maybe a player you still get to, but it's a little bit of a lonely chase. But there's value in all of it, right? I wanted to speak on this one. I mean, we're probably running up against it with time here. Yeah, we're 32.
Yeah, we'll wrap up after this one.
Let's wrap up with this question. And actually, I want to, this one actually was interesting. It said, A&W Collectibles say, DPZ, I hate to break this to you, but you have an addiction. I would encourage you not to buy a single card for 30 days. All the cards and more will be available after that time elapses. If you cannot avoid purchasing a card for 30 days, you may want to seek help. Okay. Well, here's the thing. It has been over 60 days since I bought my last card, so I feel like I don't have a problem. However, addiction, interesting. Let's break that down for a second. So does it mean you're addicted if you can't buy a card within 30 days? You can't wait 30 days? Is it an addiction? Is it 6 months? Is it 3 months? I just feel like there's a lot. There's a lot to unpack there. And it's just all going to be dependent on the person and what they're doing. Now, if I'm putting my family in a financial bind because of my purchasing of cards, yes, that's a problem. That's an issue. If I have the capacity to do it and everything's fine, is it a problem? Maybe, maybe not. Is it getting in the way of me enjoying my family time? Is it causing me an unhealthy, reaction? Am I stressed? Am I anxious about it? That could be a problem. So I think it all depends, right? If I'm able to come on here and talk on this episode about all the stuff I'm doing, I don't know if I necessarily have a problem. I can also sell everything I have right now and be ahead than I was when I first started buying cards. That's after taxes. That's assuming like a 20 to 30% decrease in value of what it is right now. I'm assuming a lot of stuff like super low, conservative weighting on that. So no, I that makes me feel, as a financial guy, a financial, in the financial industry, someone, it makes me feel better about it. But yeah, I do. But it does bring up an interesting topic, though. To his credit, though, there are people that do have problems, and it is a serious issue. And I think there are some people that they spend too much money on breaks. Maybe they spend too much money on cards. They're leveraging things they shouldn't leverage to buy cards and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's actually a very interesting topic in general. I know you've talked about it quite a few times over the years. Other people have talked about it.
I've had some issues with it. We've talked about this going back. I think it's been 2.5 years now since I made that video. I believe it was 2.5 years ago. But yeah, it was just kind of like really like very impulsively, like just making decisions, not really involving my wife in all of it. But basically what it was now, let me also say too, I wasn't missing mortgage payments, or I wasn't, it's not as if we were suffering financially, but it's just that I wasn't being as open and honest with her about what I was doing. And I didn't feel good about it. And then, when she kind of felt like we kind of broke down, it was like end of the year. We broke down and spend like budget, like where's our money going and all these sorts of things, broke it all down. And then I was like, damn, I'm actually spending a lot of money on collectibles. And she was like, wow, yeah, you are. We had to have kind of like a little bit of a rerouting of everything. Just kind of like, okay, this money comes in here, goes out there. We just kind of rerouted, some things to where I had way more of a budget, and it worked out great like that. So yeah, I ran into some issues for a period of time, but I think the lesson there, if you can, is first off, make sure you don't get in too deep. I felt a little bit out of control with what I was doing, but I wasn't out of control to where it was causing, family strife, and that I wasn't, like bills weren't getting paid. They were actually going to cards. That wasn't happening. So I think that would have been a lot worse. Well, I know it would have been a lot worse. So I didn't take it to the nth degree, but I think it was something where I just needed to check it. Because if I didn't, then it might have turned into something stupid like that, where I'm like, oh, I got to get this great card, and then maybe I'm late on this or late on that. Who knows? Like, I don't think I would have allowed that to happen, but it was something I needed to kind of get checked. And then once we did restructure things a little bit, then it worked out fine. We have a good understanding, and like everyone knows where everything is going. So, where everything is going.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, yeah, you just do your math, keep track of everything, make sure you know what things are really worth and what you've really spent, and just be mindful of all that, and budget consciously and responsibly. So that'll wrap it, man. Hey, that was kind of fun. We really didn't talk about anything but a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that was a conversation about everything and nothing. ? That'll be the title: a conversation about everything and nothing. Let me make a note.
That'll drive the engagement.
And I'll put PSA 10 ? Yeah.
all your baiting and your
hold on.
Everybody comes in here. They're like waiting for that. When are they going to talk about that? Like, no, they don't talk about that.
A talk about everything and nothing. Perfect. All right, we got it. That's it. We'll let that roll. DPZ, good to see you, buddy.
You too, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Right. See you next time.
Next time. Bye.